Hello everyone, thank you very much for visiting my YouTube channel, and my name is Saul Lopez, and now I will be doing a series of videos on learning how to play chess and how to improve your chess. I will be sharing what I have learned over the years and what I will be learning in the years to come, hopefully. Now, this video is for the beginners, for people who don't know how to play chess yet and don't know anything about the game. First of all, the game is played on a board sorry about that, with black and white squares. There's 64 in total, 32 white, 32 black, and there is always has to be a white square to your right. This is a rule in chess, and as you keep on playing, you're gonna notice that whenever you don't have the white square to your right, but you have a black one instead, you feel kind of weird, you feel like out of place. So remember that. Make sure you have a white square to your right. Now, this is a real board, actually the one that I used to play games. And you can notice the white square to your right. And another thing you're going to notice is the letters and the numbers. The letters are for the columns, see, vertical, and the numbers are for the files, which are horizontal. Okay, this is not that important right now to start playing, but eventually when we learn how to write down the moves, to study the games, or to keep the record of the games for a tournament, you're gonna have to know the letters and the numbers for the columns and the files. Another concept that you need to know is the diagonals, which is not that great of importance right now, except for the movement of some pieces like the bishop and the queen, but eventually it's gonna become very important when you learn more about chess. So, black diagonal, white diagonal. Okay? Now, we're going to start learning about the pieces. Sorry about that. The kings go on the E column, and they don't get the same color of they have for their squares. So the white king gets a black square, and the black king gets a white square. Alright? So next to the kings are the queens, and they do get the same color of the square, has their own color. So the white queen is on a white square, and the black queen is on the black square on the D column. And this is very important, especially when you're starting a game, and especially if you're playing a tournament, because if they are not put on this way, the game can be cancelled and has to be started all over again. I think there is a rule that after 5 or 10 moves, then you don't have to start again, but usually they do start the game again if they are not on the right position. Let's say the queen is on the right and the king is on the left, the game is gonna have to be played again. Okay, so next to them there's the bishops, next to the bishops the knights, next to the knights the rooks, and these are all the minor pieces, not including the king, of course, because the king is the most important piece, because if it gets trapped, it's called checkmate, and the game is over. So in front of all the pieces, there's the pawns. Okay, so 8 pieces, 8 major pieces, and 8 pawns, total of 16 for white, 16 for black 32 altogether. And this is the starting position for a game of chess. Now we're gonna start looking at the way the pieces move and take. For that, I'm gonna use Chess Master. It's a really good program that I have used over the years, and it has helped me a lot because it has some really neat options like this one. See, it's like I was playing on the table of my house. Now, this is the starting position as I mentioned before, and there is a white square to your right, and the pieces are all on the same place as on the other board. Okay, so a few things to remember. White always starts first. Okay, white moves first, and before you start, you usually, especially if you're playing a tournament, you always shake your opponent's hand, because chess is considered a game of gentlemen, and so you have to be polite and shake your opponent's hand and wish them good luck. So another thing that you have to be aware of is that if you touch a piece, you have to move that piece. Okay? So if you touch this pawn, you have to move this pawn. If you touch this pawn, you have to move this pawn. Unless you're playing with a friend or someone that doesn't want to follow these rules, and it's not a tournament game, then you can let it get away if you want to. But if not, then you have to say, if you touch a piece, you have to move that piece, because it's a rule in chess. So if I touch this knight, I can't move it. I have to move it, and I'm not gonna say, oh, I touched this knight, but I want to move, but now I changed my mind and I want to move this pawn. No, I have to move the knight, unless of course I touch this bishop, but this one cannot be moved because it moves in diagonal. But before we get into all that, we're gonna start by seeing the way pieces move. Okay, so for that we're gonna go to this setup position option, and we're gonna clear the board. I'm gonna leave only the kings. The kings move one square at a time. Okay, whatever they want, they can go back if they want to, but one square at a time. Okay, so the way they take is, let's say there is a pawn there, they can take everything that is next to them. Okay, so this king could take here, and could take here. Okay, we're not gonna worry about the way the other pieces move for now, because you know the king legally couldn't take that rook because there was a queen over here, but don't pay attention to that right now. So let's say this one has a pawn here, it just takes it. And in chess, when you take a piece, you put your piece where that piece was, on the square that piece was. So, and you take it out of the game. Okay, so to learn how to move the pawns, I'm gonna use 4 pawns. Okay, and we're gonna put this on game mode. Okay, remember, white moves first, right? So the first thing to know about the pawns is that they, on the first move, they can move 2 squares or 1 square. Okay, but after they move either 1 or 2, then they can only move 1 square at a time. Okay, so let's say white has moved 2 squares and black moves 1 square. Then this guy can only move 1 square. This guy cannot move because it's blocked. by the other pawn. Pawns only move forward. They don't go back. They can't go back.
Pawns must move forward.
See, the chess master is telling me that the pawns must move forward. Okay. So now let's say white moves and no.
You can't move your opponent's
black
pieces.
moves. Let's say black moves this pawn here, one square. Then that gives this guy the opportunity to take, because pawns take in diagonal form. Okay? And this guy can take right. Okay? Now let's say white moves this guy right here, and black moves this guy right here, and white moves here, and black moves here. Okay. Now here, this pawn is on the 5th file from the beginning of the board on black's perspective, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th file. And if white decides to move 2 squares, now this pawn can take en passant. It's called en passant. It's another rule of chess. And the way it's played is this guy moves like if this guy was still here and takes this pawn and occupies this square. Not this square where the pawn was, or this square where the pawn has moved to, but the square in between. So that is taken en passant, but only when the pawn is on the 5th file and the opponent moves his pawn 2 squares. Okay, now let's say white moves and black moves and the king moves here, and now this pawn has the opportunity to get to the other side of the board, and that gives it the right to become any piece it wants. Okay, so when it gets to this square right here, it can become a queen, a rook, a bishop, or a knight. Most people usually get a queen. Okay, and the same thing would happen for white.
You can only move your own pieces.
If white pushes here, and
you can't move your opponent's pieces.
And this guy gets to the other side, it will get the right to become any piece it wants. And as I said, usually people get a queen. Alright? So now we are going to go back to set up position and clear the board to see the way bishop moves. And this is why we need to know about diagonals. See, white diagonal and black diagonal, because bishop moves on diagonal form. Okay, and they take in diagonal form as well. Okay, so as you can see right here, this pawn is attacking the king, which is called check. It's not checkmate because the king can move, or white can take this pawn like this, right? So it's not checkmate. And this bishop can take this pawn right here. Okay? Now let me talk about the queen, because it moves similar to the bishop moves diagonal. So as many squares as it wants, so it can move one or many. But it also moves horizontal and vertical. Okay? So this queen could come here if it wants to, but then it would be taken by the king, right? And this queen could move here if it wants to, and then it will be checking the king, right? So let's say we're playing a game and the king moves here, then white moves the king and the king moves here, and then the king gets closer and closer. Okay. That is called a stalemate, which would be a draw, because the king cannot move anywhere. Now if this queen was here and this guy was here, oh, when it's a stalemate, it's a draw, just in case you're wondering. So it's a draw. But if the king moves here and then this queen moves here, then it's checkmate. Why? Because the king cannot take, because the queen is protected by the king. So if the king takes, then this king would take the other king, and that is not possible, right? First of all, it's illegal, and second of all, it would end the game anyways, right? And the king cannot move anywhere because the queen covers all those squares, okay? So this is kind of like a quick way to show you how to checkmate, which is, by the way, the purpose of the game of chess, to checkmate your opponent. Now, we're gonna see how the rook moves, okay? And the rook moves horizontal and vertical, okay? So now this guy can check right here because he moves horizontal, and the king has to move, right? Of course, this guy can keep checking, but the king can just keep moving, right? So this guy could check here, but now the king could move here, and it's threatening the rook because he can just take. Alright? If you guys have any questions, just send me messages and I'll be happy to answer. Okay. Now, one of the hardest moves to learn for a beginner is the way the knights move. And the knights move using 3 squares and 1 square to make an L. So 3 squares and 1 square, or 1 square, the square where they are at the moment, plus another 3. So this is an L, and this is an L, right? So from here, this guy could move here, or could move here, or could move here. See, always making an L. And this guy could move here, making an L, here, making an L, or here, making an L. The square he could not go to, even though it's an L form, would be this, because the king is already there. Okay? And they take the same way. They move on an L form and take the place of the piece they are taking. Okay? Great. So now that is about how to move the pieces. But as I said before, the intention of the game is to checkmate your opponent. So let's play a really quick game to show you another checkmate. And on the first move, remember, check your opponent's hand. White starts first, and if you touch a piece, you have to move that piece. Okay? So you move to squares. Move to squares. Oh, sorry. I just say if you touch a piece, you have to move a piece. But I want to show you a simple checkmate. So and I have to move the bishop here. Sorry about that. But since we're in a friendly environment, you're gonna let me get away with that, right? Okay, nice. So we put the bishop here, and let's say white moves this knight here, and white puts the queen here, attacking this square right here, and it's threatening checkmate. Try to visualize this, okay? You always have to be alert to find this kind of things, okay? To see this kind of things, right? Because if you don't, then you're gonna get checkmated and the game is gonna be over, right? But let's say black moves here and the queen takes this pawn right here. See, chessmaster is saying this black is checkmated because the king cannot move to its left because there is a black bishop there, and the queen attacks that square because queens move vertical. It cannot move to its right because there is a queen. Can move forward because the queen attacks those squares, and if it moves here, of course the queen could take, right? So it would be the end of the game. So in this situation, black chess would resign and say, okay, you won. Alright? So now you know how to set up the pieces, how to set up the board, how to move the pieces, and you know a little bit about checkmate. So go ahead, play some games, have some fun, and I'm gonna be making more videos about how to develop your pieces, how to move your pieces when you start a game, other ways to checkmate, and all kinds of things that I already know and the ones that I will be learning. Please subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay any money. You just have to have a YouTube account. And thank you very much.